Do you guys ever notice the photographers at sporting events? I definitely do. They seem to camouflage into the sidelines sometimes, but for me personally, I not only notice them, I'm really intrigued by them. I sit and I want to know what shots they're getting, if they're on a specific assignment, how much it hurts when they get tackled by the brunt of an out-of-bounds play or something like that. So we're going to learn some of that today. So my guest today is Tim Heitman, sports photographer for Getty Images. Hi, Tim. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Kelly?
I'm great. I'm excited to talk to you.
Thank you.
First, I kind of want to know, though, how long or how and when did you get into the business of sports?
Well, I've been doing it 27 or 28 years now, and my background is actually finance. I had no training in photography whatsoever. I happened to be playing in a band as a hobby, and the girlfriend of the guitar player used to be in the SID office of SMU. She said, "Hey, I understand you've taken some pictures and you played baseball in college. Would you want to be a sports photographer?" So I kind of thought about that for a second and I asked what she was looking for. And basically, I started shooting SMU women's basketball in about 1991 when the only people there were the coaches, the players, and the parents.
Wow. I didn't know that background, so that's fascinating. So 27 at 28 years, is that what you said? Which is a long time. Which is, now I'm curious to know some of these quick hit answers. So, that being said, and you've been shooting sports for so long, I'm curious, who's your favorite athlete of all time?
Probably Dirk Nowitzki. I know it's a hometown guy, but
that's okay. I love Dirk.
I started shooting the Mavericks about the same time he came to the Mavericks. Okay. Actually, I was there a little bit before, so I kind of grew up as a sports photographer as he grew up as a player.
Yeah.
And he's unique on every level. What you see is what you get. He's the nicest guy, and that was just to be the first superstar that I got to be that close to was probably something I'll always remember.
Right. And what a lucky, connection to make, all, like you said, somebody that kind of grew up in this sport as you got into this sport and didn't leave this town. What are the odds, right, that you got to have a career with someone's career?
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. It was we have co-careers, although I think his is a little more successful than mine.
Maybe a few more people might know his name than yours.
One or two more.
All right, you mentioned playing baseball. So what's your favorite sport to play?
Baseball probably is my favorite sport to play. I played since I was 5 years old, something like that, and I played up until my sophomore year in college. So it was just the sport. My dad actually played basketball at Iowa, played with Don Nelson, of all people. Oh. Speaking of another Dallas Maverick.
He's on my list to ask you about also.
Another later, Dallas Maverick connection there. Mm-hmm. So my dad played basketball, but he never said, "Hey, I have to go play basketball." And I just always loved baseball, so baseball.
Okay. So 2 questions about your favorite sports to watch. One is how do you watch? What's your favorite to watch as a fan? What's your favorite sport to shoot as a photographer?
Actually, they're the same thing.
Okay.
Hockey. I don't know how to play hockey. I don't know how to skate. But it's the fastest sport. It's the most random in terms of how the outcomes come. I think anybody that watches it on TV doesn't get the sense of the speed and the power. You really have to go to a game. And that kind of flows into my favorite sport to shoot because it's by far the most challenging. A lot of the other sports are, I don't want to say easy, but it's relatively easy because of the lack of speed and things of that. But between the reactions that you get from the players and then just the intensity, and you're really closer almost to that as a photographer at that sport than just about any other also.
And it's so unique in that, the puck is small compared to most of the size of the balls you're talking about in other sports, which makes it harder to follow because it is so much faster. But then the scope of the playing space is so contained and small. Baseball, you got the whole baseball park and everybody's stretched out, and you can probably set your sights on a player and camp out for a minute, and when something happens, you've got that shot or whatever. But in hockey, no one's ever still. Obviously, the goalie's a little bit still, but it's just got to be forever moving.
It is, and we kind of joke it's the only sport that you have to learn a different sport to play before you can play it. I mean, if you think about it, you have to learn how to skate before you can play hockey.
For sure.
Every other sport, you can virtually walk right out on the field and
Use
play.
your feet and go. Yeah.
And play. So
that's one of the fascinating things to me about hockey players is these, obviously strong, grown, very tough men who can skate like it's nothing. They're so powerful yet fast, and they move and so agile. They move and stop and change so fast. It's like you said, seeing it on TV is one thing, but when you're seeing them do that in person, it's really fascinating.
It's unbelievable. And I mean, football players are really fast and really big, but it's just, for me, it's not the same.
Okay, so then what about traveling? I don't know if this job takes you traveling. I know you're in this market taking photos, but what's the farthest distance you've ever gone to, I guess, work in sports or to, participate or watch sports as a fan?
I've been pretty localized because I shoot for Getty, but I also shoot for the Dallas Stars and USA Today, and so they have kind of a regional focus that they hire people that work generally in each group. I used to travel a lot to Oklahoma. I used to do a lot of Oklahoma football and Oklahoma State football. Mm-hmm. I've done Kansas. I used to have to go up there to do football. So it's generally a local. Well, I guess I've gone to Houston and shot. So mostly regional focus. I don't like flying, so if I can drive there and not have to worry about how my photography gear gets there, that makes me happier.
Sure, that makes sense. Okay, I'm curious to know, a list of these sports and also the teams that you've covered. It's probably really long, but you've already told us a few of the sports, and it started out with women's basketball, which is fascinating. So we know you've mentioned the Stars already. Mm-hmm. You've mentioned the Mavs. Well, I don't know if you've mentioned the Mavs. I know you because of the Mavs. So who else? What else do you cover or have you covered in the span of your career?
Team-wise, probably just about every team in every sport because I've been lucky enough to cover all the big events. I've shot the World Series twice when they were here, for the Rangers, and I've shot the Super Bowl and the MLS Championship Cup when it came here to Frisco for the first time, and 2 Stanley Cup Finals, and I've pretty much the college football championship when it came here. So event-wise, I've shot just about everything but the Olympics. It's probably the only thing I haven't shot.
When that comes through next round, when we get that, at least in the U.S., will you have the ability to get any of that?
Yeah, because that would be through USA Today, not Getty. And there's just so many different events, and it's so long that it's hard to have people commit. I mean, even though it's a big deal to commit to that. Plus, sometimes depending on your skill set, I'm more of a. If it's the Summer Olympics, I'm more of an outdoor shooter, so I would tend to do those kind of events. Or if they brought the Winter Olympics here, obviously being a hockey guy, that would be an advantage. So I can't ski, and one of the things that I learned is you can't cover the alpine sports if you don't ski because you have to ski.
Gotta be on skis.
Halfway down the mountain or 2/3 or wherever you're going to set up. You have to. They don't put you on a snowmobile and send you over there. So I was like, I guess I won't be doing too many alpine Olympic sports
anymore. That's a very narrow skill set, probably, of people who can shoot it and ski down that mountain.
I know 2 people in Dallas that can do it, and that's about it.
Oh, wow. Yeah, pretty narrow. NFL?
NFL, I shoot the Cowboy. I will be at the Thanksgiving game tomorrow. Okay. That's a thing. My wife has been understanding about that. We actually have Thanksgiving this year on December 1st. I've been doing that for as long as I can remember. So I've probably done that game 10 or 15 years now, something like that.
So you're talking about shifting your schedule, your personal holiday schedule around, because oftentimes you're going to go shoot a game that's these big holiday games.
This time of year is really hard because you've got the overlap of all, 4, 5, 6 sports, college basketball, pro basketball, college football, still the bowl games. So even though this is the joyous time of year, my wife and I have to really plan ahead to make Christmas happen because, like this year, for example, the Dallas Stars have the Winter Classic, which is on...
Yeah, that's going to be great.
On January 1st.
You'll be working that.
I'll be working that, which means we won't be going out
the
New
night
Year's
before,
Eve.
Right. Happy New Year to you. Work.
Or if I am, I may be working it. There may be a private party or something that that we need to work. So So the only thing that we get to do as a couple this time of year is I shoot the Cotton Bowl every year, and they do have a private event where they have like they go out to the Glass Cactus, and they have usually it's a pretty decent name country artist, and so that's like the one perk a year
One party
that we get to go to.
Well, good. It's better than nothing.
Better than nothing.
So let's talk about that a little bit more on your schedule. So this is not a 9 to 5 typical job where you're working all day and then you're off at night, right? So what does a game day look like for you?
Typically for a game day, most sports are similar in terms of how much time you need to prep for a game. And typically, when I first started doing this and was nervous and didn't know what I was doing, I wanted to get there about 3.5 hours before the game so that I made sure everything was set up and working.
Right.
But now for a football game, I may still have to get there about 3 hours ahead of time, especially like the Cowboys, since they're America's team and there's lots of out-of-town media and out-of-town photographers. That'll be like the other team will bring in people too,
Sure.
or the out-of-town newspaper. So to get a spot,
You got to stake your claim.
you have to literally stake your claim at places. So about 3 hours ahead of time, because that gives you the opportunity to get settled, make sure all your gear works, get something to eat. And then you can have the opportunity to go get the players working out before they're putting on their jerseys, or you can go do fans tailgating or whatever. Then the game lasts 3 to 4 hours. Baseball maybe 3.5 to 4.5 hours. And then you have to edit your pictures because, generally speaking, I'm working for a news agency and they want captioned individual pictures to put up wherever.
Yeah, and quick turnarounds.
Very quick
Right.
turnarounds. And so that may take you another hour and then an hour and a half before you get home. So what is that, a 8-hour day, 7-hour day?
So after you shoot, your gear is all there with you to where you're editing on the spot and submitting, and then you go home.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes...
I always wondered that. I always wondered if you're not just a photographer, but if you're just assigned to taking the photos and then you upload them and they're gone, or if you have to do some of the post work yourself. And
Well, one thing that's changed over the years, when I started out, I was doing film. So obviously, it took 2 or 3 days for me to get the pictures back before we could even do anything with them. And now, with social media and the internet, they want pictures during the game. So in some cases, after, like again, use an example of a Cowboy game, if it's the late night game, the Sunday night game, well, they need pictures as soon as possible because it's the only game and they don't need them at 2 o'clock in the morning. So there'll be times where if there's a touchdown on the first drive, I will literally be running into the photo room and transmitting pictures 5 or 10 minutes after the play actually happened, and hopefully ESPN will pick it up on their ESPN.com. And so within 20 minutes, there's pictures now on the internet.
Which people like me enjoy. We see. I avoid lots of social during games usually because I'm usually a little delayed. But so that's how that works then. You're on the sidelines taking it. You run and get them uploaded, and somebody else behind the scenes is getting them submitted and out there wherever they may be wherever they go. And then people pick them up, and then they're out for people like me to see within not long, a few minutes sometimes.
Yeah, like the Dallas Stars in the last couple of years have really upped their game. And this year, for example, they are actually putting up pictures. So if there's a big play or a big goal or a celebration or a hit, hopefully I have a picture of it, or Glenn, the other guy that shoots for the Stars. And they want to put those pictures on Instagram and Facebook by the end of the period, which is, something that 15 years ago wasn't even happening. Literally couldn't happen. So our workflow has changed a little bit over the years. You just can't sit there and shoot a whole game and then go home and edit everything. You are at the game almost like a sports writer writing the story during the game. You're actually trying to provide pictures that will tell whatever story you think he's writing.
Sure.
And then sometimes the second half happens and the opposite happens, and then you have to try to retell the story with pictures.
Right, because you don't know how those first half, what implications some of those plays and celebrations have until the end of the game, whatever story's being told. Would you say that quick turnaround time is the biggest challenge from going to kind of how your job has changed as, print to digital shift continues to happen and things just get so fast? Is that the hardest part?
Without a doubt, because the shooting part doesn't really change, right? Although when you had film, I mean, there is one thing that's easier. When you had film, you had 36 frames on a roll of film. And there'd be times where a play would happen, especially in football. A play would happen and you'd shoot a bunch of pictures and you'd have 4 pictures left on your roll of film, and they're on like the 4-yard line ready to score. So now your decision is, can I change film quick enough in case they score on this play, or do I just wait and only take 2 or 3 pictures of whatever it is and hope that is the only thing that happens?
Gotcha.
So that's easier now because you have virtually unlimited space on your cards now. But having to stop and not think about what you were shooting and then leave the field and then type in players' names and a description and look at your pictures and pick this one and crop it down and then go back out and get back in the mindset of, okay, where's the play and what's going on?
Again, yeah.
That's a lot harder because you really, the best games I've ever shot were when you're tethered, which means that your camera is actually directly tied to an editor. Typically a big game like the World Series or something like that where they want it even quicker. You usually have an editor that's dedicated just to you or maybe 2 or 3 other editors. And the best games that I shoot are not those games because they're bigger games. It's because for the whole 3 or 4 hours, all I'm doing is thinking about making pictures.
Focus on that action, not getting back and editing and submitting.
No, I'm not worried about, if I leave right now and they hit a home run, what happens?
You miss it, yeah. I never realized that you were juggling all of that out there. That's what I mean when I say I'm always thinking. I mean, I know you guys camouflage in, and that's part of it, but I notice it for some reason, and I'm always kind of wondering, what pictures did you just get? Like, did you just get that angle from that touchdown catch or goal or shot or whatever it is, or pitch, whatever you're getting your pictures of, and like, where's it going? And is that? Am I going to see that on Twitter in a little while? Those kind of things. But I also want to ask you and wonder, assignment-wise, are you often shooting in general sense, or do they send you out saying, here's the list of marquee players that we need stock stuff of, or whatever, or are you on a specific assignment about a specific theme, player, something happening?
Yes, all of those things.
All of the above.
All of the above. There will be times, especially like with USA Today, there will be times where they're going to run a story on a player, a specific player. And so they'll say, we don't care about the game, we don't care what's going on, we just need 10 or 12 pictures isolated or him talking to a coach, whatever, of this guy because we're running a story on this guy. There may be other times, more generally, whether for most of the things that I shoot for USA Today or Getty with the legends that where we met. I am just there basically as a photojournalist storyteller. So my job is to capture as much as I can. I don't want to say equally about both teams because if it's 100-5, it's going to be really hard to send 20 pictures of the team that scored 5 points and other than maybe 20 sad pictures. But you have to try to be neutral. When you're shooting a general unassigned thing.
Okay.
And then there are some sports where they might have the contract for the commercial license, which is generally the stuff that I shoot for is just for publication in a newspaper or something like that. But occasionally you'll get an assignment where the entity has the commercial contract, and by that I mean they have the ability to make posters or books or things like merchandise, right? So for branding and things like that. So there are times where they'll say, "Hey, I know you're going to go shoot an MLS game here. We're going to go shoot FC Dallas, and the other team's coming in, the Galaxy, and we don't have really many pictures of these 6 guys. So pay attention to try to." So you try to work them into your flow, and hopefully they do something spectacular while you're looking at them.
Ibrahimovic does some dramatic thing, and you capture it.
Great example. He didn't even come to Dallas this year. So
and he's done, I think.
And now he's done. Yeah. So I missed that one.
Yeah. Not your fault.
Not,
but yeah.
not my fault.
But that's part of the fascinating thing. And speaking of some of these names, I mean, some of the research I was doing after we met, I saw pictures out there. You have a million, obviously, pictures out there. But like with Avery Johnson and Don Nelson. And I mean, so much Dirk stuff. I mean, we already talked about Dirk. But I'm just kind of curious. So how much, if any, access do you have to these guys where you have relationships with them? Or is it really, behind the camera only?
When I was shooting the Mavericks, I had a little more access. I mean, you actually have a lot more access than just a regular sports photographer. But I always approached it that my job isn't to be their friend, and maybe that sounds wrong, but I mean, my job isn't. A lot of the places that I've worked, the Dallas Stars included, since I'm there all the time and I'm shooting them at the hospitals and things like. They know me.
Sure, they just organically, there's a relationship, I bet.
Right, and actually that does help because they trust you a little more to know that if they're acting goofy or, you take a picture and their eyes are closed or whatever, whatever that it may be, you do get a level of trust. And if you're the team photographer, like at the Dallas Stars, they understand that you're not out to get them like if you were some other photographer doing, shooting for some other organization where that guy might get paid extra because he's got a picture that goes to TMZ or something like that. So I try not to get too close to them, but I try to be around them enough that they realize they can be more normal or more relaxed, I guess is the word.
It's Dirk, one of those guys though, that's just going to be a friendly person to you just because that's his nature.
100%. I mean, he every year I used to do the. I guess I still do them for them too. We met doing the headshots for the Legends, and I do the headshots for the Mavs, and I've done them. Even though I don't officially work for them anymore, I still work through the NBA to do that. And every year, so I would see him 2 or 3 times a year. A couple games I do, and I'd see him with that. And every year he would recognize me, and every year he would say, "Hello, Tim. How are you doing today?" I mean, that's him.
And he doesn't have to.
And he doesn't have to. And there are other players that are like, what time is it? Let's get this over. And he actually would spend more time than maybe his handler wanted him to spend with you. But that's Dirk.
Right.
And that's why he's got a street named
after him. That's why everybody loves it. Yeah. That's why Nowitzki Way is here. That's why everybody loves him. Last question.
Sure.
Do you have any crazy stories of getting injured?
Ooh, almost. So last year I was at a Cowboy game. And football's by far the hardest to get, or the easiest to get hurt at.
Yeah, I would think. I'm trying to. You see the most football sideline crashes. I feel like. Well, you see under the basketball crashes too, but man, I feel like every football game somebody's getting pile drived on the sidelines accidentally.
There was a female intern 2 weeks ago, or a couple weeks ago, or 3 or 4 weeks ago, I can't remember exactly when, who got run over at the LSU football game and had a concussion and went to the hospital. I've never been hit directly, but in the last year at the Cowboys, I've come really close twice. Last year, it was a nothing game. The Cowboys were winning by 20 points or something like that. And we're standing up in the end zone, and normally you kneel in the end zone because you don't want to block the people behind you. But there's 30 seconds left in the game. You're standing up because you want to run out on the field to get the handshake and all this stuff. And I'm talking to another photographer next to me who worked for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, and we were just joking, and you rarely let your guard down.
Right.
And we were like, wouldn't that be great if they just the Cowboys threw a Hail Mary pass over here and, we got a great picture. Well, they threw a Hail Mary pass just to throw it. It was in our corner of the end zone. It was on the sideline. The ball got tipped, and the 2 players came off the field. And again, we're standing there not ready for that.
The move quick.
Yeah. And the photographer next to me got leveled, had a concussion.
Oh, no.
They grazed my shoulder, but he stood up, and then he went back in the back where the photographers are, and he couldn't remember getting there or anything that had happened.
Wow.
That was probably the closest last year. This year, there was I guess it was the Green Bay game. Same thing. You're in the end zone. They're throwing a long pass, so they're still using their momentum to get in the end zone. and you want to stay on that as long as you can because that's going to be a great picture. And the guy, the Packer, catches it on his fingers and fumbles it, so he's not trying to drop down in the end zone. He's trying to catch the ball, and he falls down, and he and the Cowboy slide into us in the end zone. And your first reaction is always get out early. And so I decided to get up to start backing up. I tripped over my other camera and fell backwards. And what was interesting was all my friends saw that on TV, and I'm getting all these texts about, are you okay? And literally I didn't get hit, but the way I stood up and fell, it looked like I just got slobber-knockered.
Well, that's just falling probably happens more often than actually getting hit. There's just so much commotion when those things go out of bounds. Sometimes it's even just the ball, or not. I've
been hit by more balls than players. You get hit a lot at Texas Ranger games.
Oh,
probably 2 or 3 times a year.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I didn't think about that at baseball. I mean, obviously there's a ball out of play. I wonder how many times. And
because you're in one of those wells on the outside of the dugout, first or third base, and when you have guys like Adrian Beltre was notorious for just pulling the ball every time, and Joey Gallo is that way now. I mean, there are some players where, like, one of the things that you like to do is shoot a double play, right? So if you're outside first base, you're looking at second base. You're just hoping that the play ends up at second base, right? You're not trying to follow things around. But there are certain players which means that you're taking your eye off of the batter.
Right. Like if your shot is on like Elvis, knowing he's going to move over towards second if there's a runner on first. So you're not even watching what the batter's doing because you're getting ready for that, anticipating that shot.
Yep. So you're kind of half committed. You're kind of looking out of your corner of your eye, hoping that they don't hit there. And there'll be other times where you're actually on the batter and you're using these long lenses that kind of compress everything. So you may be on a outside first base and you have a left-handed batter and he'll pull the ball foul and he may have just chopped it. But in your lens, it looks like it's coming right at you. So you'll actually see times where a photographer that's nowhere near the ball will be ducking out of the way because to him,
it's right there.
It's right there.
I didn't think about that. Never thought about that one.
So but yeah, baseball's way more dangerous for me than football as far as getting hit.
Yeah, I've never thought about that. And then I think, man, then the runner that hits and runs to first, you just have to hope you're not the play's not happening right when they're crossing your path. And I mean, there's so many variables that can happen, even in a quote unquote slow game like baseball. Like people think baseball is. You see how fast it is, I guess, and up close and personal, trying to get the exact second that a ball's being hit, thrown, or caught, right?
Yeah, and I've actually been hit by a ball during warm-ups where, the shortstop, in between innings when they're warming up, where the shortstop may have just been kind of messing around and short hops the first baseman and he's kind of messing around, and if you're not paying attention, you'll get hit by that too. So there's a lot less watching of a game as a fan than people realize.
Right.
I mean, I've told people a lot of times, if you love a sport because you're a fan and you love what that is, the vicarious nature and the instantaneous reaction and living emotionally through the play and all of that, if that's why you want to be a sports photographer, then you better not be a sports photographer because it's almost exactly the opposite. You have to be unemotional.
Right.
You have to be paying more. It's almost like being an offensive coordinator. If you're shooting a football game, you're trying to figure out where they're going to throw the ball or run the ball, right? Because that's going to be the best picture. And so when they come up to the line of scrimmage, you're almost like a linebacker. Where's their best receiver? Do they have their
reading it?
Yeah, where's their best running back? You shoot a team enough like the Cowboys, or when I used to shoot Oklahoma a lot, you could actually almost recognize plays before they happen.
Yeah.
And you would say, okay, in this instance, they like to go, like a perfect example. Last year, 2 years ago, when Jason Witten was on the team, they liked to, if they were from the 20-yard line in towards scoring,
the goal line,
one of their favorite plays was just to send him down the middle of the field and, throw him the ball.
Yep.
And so, it's like, I guess if I know that, then the other team probably knows that. But your first read, so to speak, is Jason Garrett running down the middle? Because
Jason Witten, yeah.
Oh, Jason Garrett.
If Jason Garrett was running down the middle, that'd be a good picture.
Yeah, that picture would be worth way more than a picture of Jason Witten. So you're looking at that and you're like, oh, he's covered. So now did they hand the ball off to Zeke? Nope. So they're throwing it way over here on the other side. Darn it, that's too far away for me to make a picture. So while somebody's going, yay, the Cowboys have scored a touchdown, or this is a great play, that's the kind of process. And so if you're a fan, you're going to be, you never want to react. If there's a saying that if you see it in your camera, you're too late, right? Because the shutter, if I see the guy catch the ball, well,
you didn't get the picture.
I didn't get the picture. So, and you can't just be going, oh, I hope that this play. You have to try to figure out what's going to happen. And then if it's a celebration, let's say it's the game-winning photo, right? Mm-hmm. Well, the fans going, yay, and high-fiving people and chugging beer and doing whatever they're doing. Your first reaction is, okay, I need to get a picture of that guy celebrating. Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm being blocked because all the players are. Now, can I find someone that's sad instead of happy? Because, again, I'm trying to do the whole game.
Right.
Like, okay, here's a sad guy. Okay, where's the coach? Or, I know Dak likes to do this fist pump, thing. Where can I get him? So all of that is going through your head while everybody's going, yay, high five, let's party.
No time for you to personally celebrate.
The only thing that I watch where I'm a fan is the Dallas Stars on the road.
Because you're not there.
Because I'm not there.
That's awesome. Well, I will now watch games with a special eye on where these photographers are and if they're safe and getting hit, and then I'll pay more attention to when I see the photos on social or on the article that night or the next day or whatever, and I'll remember you and think of what all the things you're going through to get all that done.
You and my dad.
But I appreciate you taking time. I know obviously you're really busy this time of year, like you said, when all these sports are converging at the same time here as we round out the year. So thanks for coming up to the studio and giving us a little bit of insight behind the lens.
Thanks for having me. I really enjoyed this.